Alright guys, this is going to be a quick review or a quick comparison between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 10R. Now, even though I don't have the phones personally, I think I know enough, and I honestly, based off what they said, I already have an answer of which one you should get. And if you just watched the last video I just made, you probably understand which one it is. But let's just go through some of the specs real quick, okay? So in reality, the main difference between the way these phones look are pretty much going to be in the size. The iPhone 10R is going to be a little bit bigger. So if you can see from my little picture I'm going to put right next to this, you can see that it's going to be somewhat around this size, not exactly, but it's going to still be pretty comfortable to hold. Both phones are going to be pretty comfortable. Again, like they stated, it's going to be somewhat in between this and the Plus version, so at least that's a good thing about that size. They're both going to have glass on the back. The main difference with the iPhone 10R though is there's only going to be one camera, so that is kind of something to keep in mind. Apparently the camera is still going to be able to do portrait mode and portrait lighting, but even at that point, I still think the iPhone 10 camera is going to be better, just because you do have the other sensor and the telephoto lens and all of that stuff. Both phones also do have Face ID, which is nice. Apparently the iPhone 10R's Face ID is better from what Apple stated, but there's really, we're going to have to wait to get in our hands to kind of test it. But really, I think the difference isn't going to be that noticeable. Maybe a little bit, but it's not going to be crazy like anything like that. Both phones do also support wireless charging, so that is nice. Now, surprisingly, I didn't know this. I thought the iPhone 10R was going to be IP68 dust and water proof, but it's really not. Both phones are IP67 dust and water resistant. And the difference is here is that if you dip your phone into water, you will pretty much be good, but if you drop your phone in a pool or something like that, you most likely will have water damage, versus if on IP68, like the iPhone XS and XS Max, if you dip your phone into water, you'll actually be fine, and if you drop your phone in a pool, you'll also be fine there. So a little bit of difference there, but not too crazy. Now this is the biggest difference, okay? And I ranted about this on my other video, but the iPhone 10R has a 6.1 inch screen, which is nice. The iPhone 10 has a 5.8 inch screen, but the iPhone 10R's resolution screen is 828 by 1792, so it's pretty much 326 pixels per inch, versus the iPhone 10, which is a Super AMOLED screen. That resolution is 1125 by 2436, and that is 458 pixels per inch. So just imagine that real quick, okay? And you might ask yourself, oh, there's really not going to be that much of a difference, right? But in fact, I don't know why I said it like that. The iPhone 10R screen is pretty much the same replication of an iPhone 6 screen. Just imagine an iPhone 6 screen not only on an iPhone 10, so not only stretched out more, but also on top of that, the iPhone 10R screen is even bigger than the iPhone 10. So not only does the resolution go down and the PPI go down, but the screen gets bigger on the iPhone 10R, and that's completely ridiculous. Why would they make it like that? So I can tell you right now, from comparing an iPhone 10 screen to an iPhone 10R screen, the iPhone 10 screen is miles ahead. Even if this was an LCD screen, this would still be miles ahead, but the fact that this is AMOLED only makes it that much better. Does that mean the iPhone 10R screen is going to be unusable? Not at all, but it's just not going to be worth it at all. The iPhone 10 screen is going to be so much better, and that's really how you communicate with the phone. You don't communicate with the phone with the A12 Bionic chip or whatever like that. You look at the screen to communicate with it, and if the screen isn't good, then that really tells a lot about the experience you'll have. Really, the only good thing about the iPhone 10R screen, it has a true tone, and it has 120 Hertz touch sensing, which whatever that means. It's not what you think. It's not the iPad Pro like performance. It's maybe just a refresh rate, but it's not really a crazy feature, I would say. And another huge disadvantage of the iPhone 10R is that you're losing 3D touch, which is insane. How can you go and push a phone like this and not even have 3D touch, where the iPhone 7, which is still being manufactured and still being sold by Apple, has 3D touch and is even cheaper than this? So what are they doing here? Are they doing it for the right reasons? Are they removing it for the right reasons? I have no idea. Now, the main thing in terms of the performance is that the iPhone 10 does have the Apple A11 Bionic chip. The iPhone 10R does have the Apple A12 Bionic chip. And I'll probably say that yes, the iPhone 10R might have better performance, but I will say if it's between these two, you're not going to see that big of a jump, okay? You'll see a jump for sure, but it's not going to be crazy. The only thing I can allude this to is maybe the performance jump from like an iPhone 7 Plus to an iPhone 8 Plus, because in that sense, it really wasn't too crazy. In this sense though, I mean, this phone is still very powerful. It's not like once the new iPhone comes out, the iPhone XR, this is going to be unusable. That's not going to be the case at all. I will have to get the iPhone XR and experience it a little bit more in order to get a better kind of idea of it. But I can tell you right now that it's not going to be that crazy. It's going to be better, but it's not going to be worth switching or anything like that. Really, the biggest advantage that really isn't talked about too much that the iPhone XR has is that with the front camera, you are able to shoot 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is pretty nice, I would say. It's a very nice feature to have, but at the same time, I don't think a lot of people are going to use that. I don't think a lot of people are making videos on their front camera. They're usually making it on their back camera. So with that being said, I mean, yes, there is an advantage on the iPhone XR in that case, but at the same time, you're not going to notice that crazy of a difference or anything like that if you're an average user. Now, if you're making vlogs or something like that, then you probably will have an advantage using an iPhone XR. But even in my case, I don't even shoot my videos, these videos you're watching, in 60 frames per second. I do them in 30 frames per second because it's a little bit easier to edit and it doesn't take as long to process. So in that case, maybe there is an advantage, but for the average person, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. Now, in terms of battery life on both of them, like I said, we're going to have to get it in-house and to test a little bit further. But I will probably say that the iPhone XR will have better battery life. I would assume that the battery size is bigger because it is a bigger phone. But at the same time, because it is a lower resolution screen and it's not OLED and the PPI is disgustingly low, you will probably get better battery life on the iPhone XR, and that's really an only advantage of it. And as I said, I mean, there's only a few advantages of an iPhone XR versus an iPhone X. Man, I'm sorry guys, I had to cut the video out like this again, but I just have a quick thing to add. I totally forgot. The iPhone XR does come out in several different colors, okay? Now, I don't know if this particularly pertains to you, but it does come out in white or like whitish, blue, yellow, orange, red, and I believe black as well, but that's more like space gray. That is, if that's something that pertains to you, then that is something cool. Like I said, they both have glass on the back, and the way I see it is like the color, I'm not trying to be a pessimist on purpose, but like you're probably going to put a case on your phone anyway. And I kind of allude the same thing to like the iPhone 5C. If you remember, that thing came out in several different colors too, but that kind of had a different effect because you had different cases that kind of matched that. Apple came out with this weird case, but in this case, you're probably going to put a case over it. So it's kind of weird. I mean, yes, there is an advantage. You are kind of able to kind of have a different looking phone, but at the same time, you kind of are giving up the so many different features that the iPhone X does have. And I do kind of go into that in a minute, but just know that this phone does come out in several different colors, which don't really mean anything. It doesn't really add anything to the phone, but that is something I kind of have to add. And this is a part where a lot of people don't mention, but the iPhone X is being discontinued now. It's not being made anymore. What I will tell you right now is that the prices for an iPhone X have gone down, are going to go down dramatically once the XS and XS Max are released, and then once the XR are released. Now, I'm going to post a photo up of an analysis I did, and I bought my iPhone X for $720, about give or take, about 2-3 months ago, like in June or July. And that was when this phone was still the main flagship. It was still the $1,000 phone. And I did an analysis on how much the average used price for this phone is on eBay. And it wasn't perfect, you know, there could have been a lot of problems, but I found out that the iPhone X average selling price is around $600 something, less than $700. And now that price is going to go down even more. So just imagine that once the iPhone XS Max, XS, and not XR are fully released, that price is going to go down even more. So I will say you might as well wait, get a used iPhone X, okay? 100%. I would rather get an iPhone X than an iPhone XR. Even though this is just a quick comparison, I will still say the iPhone X is a better deal overall. Not only are you getting the OLED screen, a high resolution screen, you're still keeping 3D touch, and you're still keeping a dual camera, which is always better. And that is pretty much where I'm going to leave it at. The iPhone XR starting price is $750. I would still rather get an iPhone X, even if it was selling for $750, than an iPhone XR. And surprisingly, like I said, guys, the iPhone X is going to go down in value even more. It's probably going to be around $600, maybe even $550 on the used market if you're lucky. So I would definitely tell you guys to get it then. But that is pretty much it. I'm going to do a full review, full comparison once it does come fully released. So just wait for that. And I literally cannot wait to do it. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please leave it down in the comment section below. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to hear your opinion. Definitely check out the links in the description as well, guys. My second channel, Lo-Fi Alpaca, I'm starting to post more videos on that, so definitely check that out. My Twitter, my Instagram, all that stuff is down there. I would really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.